Most people believe that regular health checkups are always a good idea. But what if I told you that after a certain age, some of them could actually put your life at risk? Sounds strange, right? But it's true, not all screenings and tests are harmless. In fact, some of the most commonly offered checkups for older adults can lead to false alarms, unnecessary stress, and even dangerous procedures. This isn't fear-mongering, it's a growing awareness among doctors, especially those working with patients over 70. Medicine is evolving, and so must we. The one-size-fits-all approach to testing can actually do more harm than good as we age. In this video, we're going to take a clear and honest look at 5 specific health checkups that seniors are often better off avoiding, tests that even experienced doctors often decline for themselves. We'll explore why these tests are so widely recommended, the hidden risks they carry, and the safer, smarter alternatives that help you stay informed without putting your health in danger. Because you deserve medical care that respects your age, your body, and your quality of life. If you care about your health but want to avoid being overtreated, overmedicated, or overwhelmed by today's healthcare system, this video is for you. We're not here to scare you. We're here to empower you, with knowledge, with confidence, and with a clearer understanding of what really supports your health after 70. Let's begin. Number 1, the colonoscopy trap. For decades, colonoscopy has been hailed as the gold standard for preventing colon cancer. But after the age of 70, especially in people with no symptoms or family history, this once life-saving screening can quietly become more harmful than helpful. What used to be a smart preventive step in your 50s or 60s can, past a certain age, become a source of unnecessary risk, stress, and even hospitalization. Here's why: the procedure is not minor. It involves full bowel prep, sedation, and the insertion of a long scope into your intestines. That's tough even for younger adults, but for older individuals, the risks increase dramatically. The bowel cleansing process alone can lead to dehydration and serious electrolyte imbalances, which can be dangerous for seniors. And the sedatives used during the procedure? They stay in the body longer as we age, causing confusion and dizziness and increasing the risk of falls. But perhaps the most concerning part is what happens after a colonoscopy, when small polyps are found. These polyps are often harmless and slow-growing. In fact, many take 10 to 15 years to become anything serious, and for someone in their 70s or 80s, those years may not come into play. Yet, the discovery creates fear. It leads to a cascade of follow-up procedures, repeat scopes, biopsies, even partial removal of the bowel, all in the name of prevention. But when the risks of intervention outweigh the benefits, prevention becomes harm. Let me tell you about someone I know, George. He was 82, sharp as ever, active, and independent. He was talked into a routine colonoscopy, even though he had no digestive issues. During the prep, he became severely dehydrated. After the procedure, he was disoriented. That night, he fell and fractured his hip. The colonoscopy? It found nothing. But the aftermath? Months of recovery, hospital bills, and mental stress. This isn't about blaming doctors. They're doing what they were trained to do. But medicine is shifting, and it's time we shift with it. If you're over 70 and not experiencing any symptoms, it is perfectly reasonable to say no to a colonoscopy. There are non-invasive stool tests now that are safe, easy, and, in many cases, just as effective. This is about weighing the real cost, physical, emotional, and financial, of putting your body through something that may not help you. We need to stop assuming more testing always means better care. Because after 70, better care often means fewer interventions and more thoughtful decisions. You're not ignoring your health by being cautious, you're respecting it. Number 2, the annual full body scan mistake. The idea sounds smart on the surface: let a high-tech machine scan your entire body from head to toe, uncovering any hidden issue before it becomes a serious problem. That sounds like proactive prevention, right? But for adults over 70, this kind of screening can be more of a curse than a blessing. While full-body CT scans and MRIs may seem like a responsible, forward-thinking choice, they often lead to a domino effect of fear, follow-up tests, and even unnecessary surgeries, many of which can cause more harm than good. Let's be clear, these scans are not routine screening tools. They're high-powered technologies designed to detect everything, including small, harmless abnormalities that would never have impacted your health or shortened your life. These so-called incidental findings can turn into ticking mental time bombs. A small nodule here, a shadow there, and suddenly you're stuck in a cycle of appointments, biopsies, and consultations with specialists, all chasing something that may never have been a threat. So why is this more concerning after 70? Because the older body doesn't recover the way it used to. A biopsy that would have been a simple outpatient procedure at 45 can, at 75, lead to complications like a collapsed lung, infections, or prolonged recovery times. Even lying still for long periods during an MRI can become physically exhausting or painful for aging joints. And let's not forget the emotional toll. Seniors often end up worrying more about what might be instead of enjoying the health they do have. Take Betty, for example, a 78-year-old woman I met at a senior wellness event. She was vibrant, walked daily, and had no health complaints. But during a local health fair, a mobile clinic offered her a discounted full-body scan. The scan revealed a tiny lesion on her kidney, so small it likely would have never caused a problem. But the word lesion was enough to send her into a panic. Within a month, she was in surgery. The result? Months of recovery, a permanent drop in energy, and ongoing complications that never fully went away, all for something that might have stayed silent for the rest of her life. This is called overdiagnosis. Medically, it leads to overtreatment. Emotionally, it creates unnecessary anxiety. Financially, it's draining, especially since full-body scans are rarely covered by insurance unless medically necessary. Many seniors pay out of pocket, thinking they're buying peace of mind, but what they're really buying is a lifetime subscription to endless testing. At this stage of life, responsibility looks different. It's about trusting your body more. It's about tuning into how you feel, not just what a machine says. And it's about recognizing that not every shadow on a screen deserves your fear, your time, or your energy. If this message is resonating with you, drop a #2 in the comments to let me know you're still watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button and turn on notifications. It helps us keep bringing you content that informs, protects, and empowers you. Now, let's move on. Number 3. The overuse of cardiac stress tests. For years, the treadmill stress test has been considered a go-to method for detecting heart disease, especially in older adults. The thinking goes, put the heart under pressure and see how it performs. Seems logical, right? But after the age of 70, that logic starts to break down, and for many seniors, it can lead to a series of missteps that carry real risk. Here's the problem. Cardiac stress tests in older adults often produce false positives, results that suggest a heart problem when none actually exists. Why? Because our bodies naturally change with age. Arteries become stiffer. Blood pressure becomes more variable. The heart's electrical activity shifts slightly. These changes are normal, not dangerous. But the stress test doesn't know that. It just flags anything unusual. And when it does, that flag often sets off an expensive and invasive chain of events: angiograms, catheterizations, stent placements, or even bypass surgery, procedures that carry serious risks, especially for people over 70. We're talking about bleeding, infections, kidney injury from contrast dye, and sharp drops in blood pressure, not to mention the psychological stress and time lost to multiple hospital visits. And the truth is, in many seniors with no symptoms, these stress tests don't improve outcomes. They often just find things that don't need fixing, or worse, lead to interventions that make recovery harder and quality of life lower. So what should you do instead? If you're not experiencing chest pain, shortness of breath, or other clear cardiac symptoms, it's perfectly reasonable to skip the stress test and focus instead on lifestyle-based prevention, regular walking, a heart-healthy diet, stress management, and periodic basic checkups like blood pressure and cholesterol. In other words, don't push your heart into panic mode just to see what happens. At 70 plus, the goal is not to chase every possible problem, it's to stay strong and steady and enjoy the life you've built. The conclusion of number 3, the overuse of cardiac stress tests. And number 4, the pitfalls of routine colonoscopies. This version preserves the core message but sharpens the language, pacing, and emotional tone for clarity and effectiveness, ideal for a compelling video script or article. Number 3, the overuse of cardiac stress tests, continued. As we age, complications multiply. What begins as a simple treadmill test can end with a hospital stay, leaving you wondering how things escalated so quickly. Let me tell you about George, a 74-year-old retired bus driver. No chest pain. No shortness of breath. No fatigue. Just a routine physical where his doctor, just to be safe, ordered a stress test. The results came back borderline. Within days, he was referred to a cardiologist. 3 weeks later, George underwent an angioplasty for a blockage that had never caused a single symptom. Within a month, he developed a serious infection at the catheter site. He ended up in the ICU and spent the next 6 months in and out of rehab. His energy, his mobility, his quality of life, never fully came back. So ask yourself, was that treadmill test worth it? Today, many leading cardiologists and geriatric specialists strongly advise against routine cardiac stress testing in asymptomatic older adults. Why? Because if you're not experiencing chest pain, breathlessness, or unusual fatigue, the test offers little benefit, and significant potential for harm. This is especially true when your goal isn't just to live longer, but to live well. There's something emotionally persuasive about testing the heart. It feels central to who we are, the literal rhythm of life. So, of course, we want to protect it. But healthy aging isn't about chasing every what if. It's about listening to your body, preserving your independence, and avoiding medical interventions that often take more than they give. That doesn't mean ignoring your heart health. Far from it. But instead of jumping onto a treadmill just because it's offered, focus on what actually supports your heart after 70. Daily walks. Balanced meals. Staying socially connected. Managing your stress. These aren't high-tech, but they are high-impact. What we need in this season of life is discernment, the wisdom to say no, even when something is available. The understanding that not every test is a gift. And sometimes, the most life-affirming decision you can make is to decline one. Number 4, the pitfalls of routine colonoscopies. There's something inherently unsettling about colon cancer. It tends to creep in silently, often showing no symptoms until it's advanced. That's why colonoscopies have long been championed as one of the most important tools in modern preventive care. But here's what many people aren't told: after a certain age, particularly beyond 70, the risks of colonoscopies can begin to outweigh the benefits. And for many older adults, this test may cause more harm than good. Let's begin with the procedure itself. Colonoscopies require full sedation. For older adults, this is not a small risk. As we age, our liver processes medications more slowly, and our brain becomes more sensitive to sedatives. That's why seniors are far more vulnerable to a condition known as postoperative cognitive dysfunction, a lingering fog that can cause memory issues, confusion, or disorientation for weeks, sometimes even months. Then there's the bowel prep, something anyone who's had a colonoscopy will never forget. You're required to drink large amounts of powerful laxatives to flush your system. But for seniors, that cleansing process can be dangerously disruptive. It can cause dehydration, electrolyte imbalances, kidney strain, and physical exhaustion. Even worse, it increases your fall risk. One misstep during a late-night bathroom trip, and you're dizzy, disoriented, and on the floor. It happens more often than people realize, especially in older adults who live alone. But perhaps the most overlooked factor is the time horizon of benefit. Colonoscopies are designed to detect slow-growing polyps that may take 10 to 15 years to turn into cancer. So if you're in your mid-70s or 80s, especially if you've had clean screenings in the past, the odds of those polyps becoming dangerous within your lifetime are extremely low. And yet, the procedure carries all the same risks: sedation, complications, falls, unnecessary surgeries. All to prevent something that may never become a threat. This doesn't mean colonoscopies aren't useful; they are, at the right age and under the right conditions. But after a certain point, continuing to repeat them simply because it's time can cause far more harm than good. In fact, many medical organizations now acknowledge that the potential benefits of colonoscopies decline significantly with age, while the risks, including bleeding, perforation, and adverse reactions to medications, increase sharply. Take Eileen, for example. A 78-year-old retired schoolteacher. She had 2 clean colonoscopies in the past, one at 68, another at 73. But at 78, her doctor recommended another, just to be safe. Trusting the process, she agreed. But during the procedure, something went wrong. Her colon was accidentally perforated, a rare but serious complication. She was rushed into emergency surgery and spent nearly a month in the hospital recovering. Eileen survived, but she was never the same afterward. Her energy never fully returned, and her independence suffered. To this day, she often says, "I wish someone had told me the test might not be worth what I ended up paying." So, why does this happen? Part of the answer lies in medical habit. If something worked at 50, surely it's still good at 75, right? But aging changes everything. What once offered protection can, later in life, become a risk. And while the fear of cancer is understandable, it can cause us to lose sight of what truly matters in this phase of life. Staying mobile. Staying mentally sharp. Staying emotionally well. No screening test, no matter how advanced, is worth sacrificing those pillars for a small, uncertain increase in life expectancy. At this age, what matters more is staying alert to real symptoms. Unexplained weight loss. Persistent abdominal pain. Blood in the stool. In those cases, further investigation is not only appropriate, it's essential. But in the absence of symptoms, and with a clean screening history, a routine colonoscopy isn't just unnecessary. It may be dangerous. This is where we reclaim control. Being informed means understanding trade-offs, not blindly following routines just because it's what people do. Your body has earned the right to be treated with thoughtfulness, not subjected to risks that no longer offer real rewards. If you're still watching and finding value in these insights, comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful content for your health and peace of mind. Now, let's continue. Number 5, the overuse of routine cardiac stress tests. There's something about heart disease that feels like a silent threat. We've all heard the stories. He looked fine yesterday, and then suddenly he was gone. That kind of fear makes it easy to think, should get my heart checked, just in case. That's why cardiac stress tests, the ones where you walk on a treadmill or receive a chemical agent to simulate exercise, are so commonly ordered for people over 70. But here's what many people don't know. For seniors without any cardiac symptoms, these tests often do more harm than good. At first glance, the concept seems reassuring. Put your heart under pressure, monitor the response, and if something seems off, take action. But the reality is far more complicated. By the time we reach our 70s, our cardiovascular system has naturally changed. A bit of plaque buildup. Slightly stiffened arteries. Slower recovery after physical effort. These aren't necessarily signs of heart disease, they're part of normal aging. But stress tests don't make that distinction. When they pick up something abnormal, doctors often err on the side of caution. That can lead to a chain reaction. Further tests, angiograms, even stents or bypass surgery, all for something that may never have become a problem in the first place. And those procedures? They're not without real risks. Bleeding. Infection. Stroke. Kidney damage from contrast dye. Older adults, especially those with already fragile blood vessels or declining kidney function, are especially vulnerable. And once the process begins, it's hard to stop. One test leads to another. Then another. Before you know it, you're recovering from a procedure you never needed, wondering how it all escalated so quickly. Take Harold, for instance, a 76-year-old grandfather from Illinois. He was doing great. Walking daily. Enjoying his grandkids. No chest pain. No shortness of breath. At his annual checkup, his doctor suggested a stress test, just to be safe. The test showed a mild abnormality. To be continued. Number 5, the overuse of routine cardiac stress tests. Harold was a 76-year-old grandfather from Illinois. Healthy. Active. No chest pain. No shortness of breath. He walked daily and played with his grandkids. At a routine checkup, his doctor suggested a stress test, just to be cautious. The results showed a minor abnormality, which led to a cardiac catheterization. The doctors found a bit of non-obstructive plaque, nothing blocking blood flow, nothing urgent. Still, they placed a stent just in case. That's when the real problems began. The blood thinners prescribed after the procedure caused internal bleeding. Harold landed in the hospital and spent the next 3 months recovering. All because of a test he didn't need, for a condition that wasn't causing him any issues. So why does this keep happening? Fear. Fear of missing something. Fear of what might happen if we don't act. But here's the truth, at this stage of life, the focus should shift. From chasing every possible issue, to protecting what matters most. Energy. Independence. Peace of mind. Today, many leading cardiologists advise against routine stress testing in older adults who don't have symptoms. The evidence just doesn't support it. These tests don't lower the risk of heart attacks. They don't reduce mortality. And in people without clear symptoms, no chest discomfort, no exertion-related breathlessness, no unexplained fatigue, they're not just unnecessary, they're potentially harmful. The smarter, safer path is symptom-based care. If you're noticing real changes, like chest pressure during activity, irregular heartbeat, or unexplained fatigue, then yes, a heart evaluation makes sense. But if you're active, feeling steady, sleeping well, and functioning normally, your body is already telling you a story. And it may be more accurate than anything a machine could reveal. As we age, the goal shifts. Not toward aggressive intervention, but toward thoughtful observation. That doesn't mean giving up. It means living wisely. You don't need to fight every disease. You need to protect your time. Your clarity. Your dignity. Final thoughts, wisdom over worry. Getting older doesn't mean becoming helpless. In fact, this may be the most powerful season of your life. Because now, you know how to ask better questions. In a world that constantly pushes for more. More checkups. More scans. More medications. Sometimes the bravest and wisest choice is to say, not right now. Not because you're ignoring your health. But because you're honoring it. This stage of life deserves individualized care, not one-size-fits-all protocols designed for younger bodies. Healthcare at 70, 75, 80, should be a conversation about what truly matters. How do you want to live? What are your values? What are you really willing to risk for a slim chance of benefit? Too often, tests are ordered because that's what we do. Not because they'll change the outcome. But the truth is, many tests change nothing but the paperwork, while draining your energy and hijacking your peace. It's not that doctors mean harm. They're trained in a system that often chases disease rather than celebrating health. So if this video helped you see things differently, even for a moment, then it's already served its purpose. And remember this. Saying no to a test doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're choosing wisely. It means you're protecting what matters most. It means you're living life on your terms. Not fearfully, but thoughtfully. Not buried in appointments, but uplifted by purpose. You've earned that. Let's hear from you. If this video gave you something to think about, drop a comment below and share one thing you learned or one way you plan to apply this in your life. We read every single message, and your reflections inspire us to keep going. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. Your support helps us continue making thoughtful, empowering content that respects your stage of life. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.